Thank you so much, Kevin, and thanks for having this AFTA dialogue. So I'll be recording this so people can follow up later and ask me questions, make comments. So today I'm talking about a very interesting tool to visualize and run some statistical data that I think it will be very interesting in the systemic research, especially for marriage and family therapists and for AFTA members as well. So I will start talking about what social network analysis in this case, in this presentation, will not be. So this is not about social media, okay? Many times I will tell people that I'm learning about and I'm starting research projects about social network analysis, and immediately people will think about social media networks. And I'm not saying that social network analysis cannot involve social media, because they are about relationships as well. But I'm talking more about how we are connected to each other. So how we as living beings are connected in our social networks in daily life, like our family, friends, work, school, even in the neighborhood, in the community, professionals that we see. So how connected we are with other people as well. So this is the type of social networks that we'll be talking about today. And thinking also that social networks are very likely associated with our health, our mental health, and also our physical health. There have been some studies about how in situations of crisis, especially, when we have a structure or a safe network, we will be better in life. So, regarding situations that we will face in our life, that we will need help, we will need the support, and we will need the advice of other people, it's important that we have established a good social network so we can count on each other. So health, our health, mental health and physical health, it is highly connected with how safe and how supportive is our own social networks. And there have been many, not only in the public health, but also marriage and family therapists that have developed some ideas. We have Leah Sanicola, the Italian, we have Zlewski, just to mention some of the authors that discuss about social networks and the importance of social networks. Talking about specifically social network analysis is a way of gathering relational data. So we are very used to, in the science, to see, especially in the psychology field, in the human science, physical science, to gather individual data from individuals and collect them and analyze them as a group. But it's not common for us to see ways of creating relational data, which means that people would have to mention and to have similar answers so we can build relational data. But we will talk later about how we can create and how to make analysis of relational data. So social network analysis, it is the analysis of relational data. So some basic concepts to understand the social network analysis are so understanding nodes. The basic ones are nodes and ties. So understanding nodes are the actors. So it can be individuals, it can be people, it can be institutions, it can be agencies, it can be like anything that acts and that connects with information or collaboration. So a specific real type of relationship that as we call ties. So nodes are the actors and ties are the relationship that connects them in a specific way. We also have some measures, just to understand some descriptive measures. It's the degree. So degree will be a centrality measure that would say how many connections a node have. So a degree of 2, that one node is connected to 2 other nodes. A degree of 20 would be that that same node has 20 connections. So the degree is the numbers of nodes that he's connected with. We also have density, which measures how cohesive a network is. So when we have density is a measure, it's like 0 to 100%, with 100 will be 1. So 100% density is that every node is connected to every other node. So that will be 100% of ties possibilities. So density, the higher the density, the higher cohesive a group is, the highly connected they are to each other. The lower the density, the lower connections we have in a specific network. And we also have components. There are the numbers of subgroups that we have, that the subgroups that are separated from each other. So if we have, for example, a network of 5 people and 3 are connected and other 2 are connected, we will have 2 components. So the components it's a measure to understand how many components a network have, and also to see how many isolates. So each isolates, which are the nodes that are not connected to any of the other nodes of that same network, they are isolates, and they will be one each component. There are many other concepts, and there are some there are some links that I will share as well, so you can learn more about the base descriptive concepts of social network analysis. What type of data network provide us? So network data, we have possibilities of visualizing how a network is connected. So it will show us some graphs, and there are many different softwares to help us manage those, the way that we visualize those graphs. There are also descriptive statistics, so the density, degree, centrality measures, so those numbers that help us understand descriptive statistics of the social network. And also we also have some statistical modeling based in algorithms, and I'll talk a little bit about in the example later. But this is basically to understand what are the attributes, what is behind, how can we understand that is making people connect to each other. So it's the same interests, so gender, ethnicity. So there are many characteristics that a subgroup will share, even though they are part of the same component. They are all kind of connected to each other. We can run some statistical algorithm modeling to understand if there is a way to understand what is influencing how people are establishing connections. So I'll be talking about this in a minute. So some examples. So I said that it's not about social media, but we can use social network analysis to analyze social interactions in social media as well. And this is an example of how social media, and here how Twitter, how we tweet, Twitter algorithms are designed to connect people with similar people. And we also know that Facebook also have some algorithms that will make you connections to people that many information that you share, or things that you like, things that you agree or they comment on, they will suggest you with other people. So this is an example, and you can find this online as well, how in the United States, for example, the Twitter, and both liberal and conservative. So here the liberal are the blue and conservative party is in red. So we can see how we have two different clusters. Even though they're connected, they are part of the same component, we can clearly see here there is a division of cohesion that is explaining how connected people maintain in the same interest. And we have just a few people that are in the Twitter connected to both, but the majority of them, they don't talk outside, they don't see other tweets that are not from their own cluster. Okay, these are some examples. Another example is the Luke in other authors' paper about how we can also form and analyze scientific networks. So for example, some types of relationships will be mentoring, how research are doing together, grants applying together, presentations in scientific conferences, publications as well. So there are many types of ties that we can analyze and understand and see the difference, for example, in different years. So they analyze, so here's an example of how research collaboration changed. So this was the same people that were maintaining connections, and they were part of the same group in a university setting. And through the years, and some work have been done together to help them integrate more, to collaborate more with each other. So we can see an improvement through the years of collaboration, research collaboration. And they also, in this paper is also clear how more connected they were in scientific presentations. And here I'm talking about fellows, faculty, and core faculty members in the university. And also how they were also making publications in a more collaborative way through time. So this is how we can visualize not only as in one time, but we can also compare them, the dynamics of the social network through time. A question is, so how can we gather relational data? How do we construct? How do we collect relational data? And usually we will identify the nodes, and we will need also to know what type of ties, what type of relationship we are looking for. So we need first to have that in mind. And this is an example that we can see here in the presentation. It's related to social media as well. So how you can gather data regarding people, and if they are following each other, if they replies, if they mention somebody. So these are types of connections that you can understand, and there are some tools in the internet to help you navigate that as well. I did a presentation of social network analysis in the past AFTA meeting, and I asked for 10 volunteers at that same time in that presentation that were attending the presentation to answer an online survey in Qualtrics. So they would answer in this survey if they were AFTA members or not, how many AFTA meetings they have attended attendance so far, and they will also answer questions regarding the other 9 people in the other 9 volunteers to say the frequency of their contact with each other and the collaboration, if they were collaborating somehow besides AFTA meetings as well. So I ran the data at the same time as I was presenting, and I also asked all of the participants there. They will not be identified in the data that I'll show to you, and they also, even though they also agreed to share this data. Okay, so these are the types of questions that it was exactly like this in the Qualtrics survey. So on average, how often have you had direct contact, and it can be meetings, phone calls, text messages, emails, letter, or fax, with each of the following people over the last year? So they would answer for each of the person, and they will all receive a number, so we would all know which number everybody would be. And they would have to click if never, if at least yearly, quarterly, or at least monthly or weekly. And also, this is the contact network. And here's the collaboration networks that would be created after they answer the questions of how, if they have ever engaged in some type of collaboration project. So if they say no, or exchange, or informally, or formally. So there was the types of collaboration projects that they will be doing together. In how I manage the data. So before I had set in R, so here I'm using R statistical software to run this data, and I had prepared this before the presentation. So I had all of the commands, all of the codes already set to run the data, so they could give me. The only thing that I did after they input the data, I went to Qualtrics and I exported the data, and in the section of importing and reading as the Excel files, they would gather the data that was just answered by the volunteers. So all of this work, it took me several hours, days of working in this data, and I'm also collaborating with Washington University in St. Louis, Bobby Catters. So thankfully for her as well, I was able to prepare all of this relational data management using RStudio, so I could run this in a matter of minutes after having the data. So this is just an example of how I manage the data using R, but I can also share this with you. And this is what we found. Okay, this is to visualize and some statistical descriptions. So the contact network, it's very interesting to see that at least yearly, all of the so we have here only one component, which is good. So we have no isolates in this sample of participants of AFTA attendees. The density is 0.26, which means that in 100% of possibilities, we have 26% of interactions in this network. And the degree average that people are connected with others, it's 2.5. So you will be at least in average connected with 2 other people to create this network. And the colors meanings are, so we have here, and it's interesting to see the first time attendee and the ones, so the newer people to AFTA meetings and the older people in attending AFTA meetings, they are more apart, so they have fewer connections, while AFTA attendees that are there from 2 to 7 meetings are more intensely connected. So this data also shows us, so the way that I prepared the data is to represent circles are the ones that are AFTA members, and the squares are representation of non-AFTA members. So we can see here, number one, even though that person is not an AFTA member, the person is very connected with others. While all the others are AFTA members, except for number 6, that is there for the first time and maybe is being brought by number 2, which we will see in another network that was also. So this is yearly, so at least yearly these people are connected. But quarterly or at least monthly, we only see the connection between number 6 and number 2. And to be able to collect this data, both would have to share at least a minimal answer of something. And I will gather and I will put to represent that connection. So we can see here that number 2 and number 6 are more connected, at least monthly, which it seems like that person is bringing a new potential member or a new attendee to the AFTA conference, which is very good to see as well. Regarding the collaboration, we can see that people that are participating in AFTA meetings, I mean, this is only a small sample of 10 people. We can see that they are not collaborating as much and not even informally. We only can see here the members that are collaborating in projects informally. The ones that are older in AFTA meetings, and those 2 ones that might be connected in other academic settings as well for informally collaborating or not only contact, but they're also involved in some work as well, number 2 and 6. While the other ones, even though they are in contact with each other, and this contact, I mean, before that specific date, they were doing this data. But even though they know each other, they contact with each other, they're not collaborating with each other, not informally and not even in formally as well. Okay, so this is the main data and this is the density we see. It's only 0.04 and less than 1 person of degree average between this specific network data that we have. So I have, okay, so this is the presentation, and now I think I can open for discussion so we can discuss 2 things. One thing I'm interested to know, what do you think this type of data or this, small sample in an AFTA meeting tells us? And another question would be how you think you could apply social network analysis in your own work. So I will stop recording now, so you need the other participants to